My daughter found out her boyfriend cheated with my wife, and I was shocked by my wife's dark secret. I am 45 years old. My wife is 42. We have been married for 20 years and have a 20-year-old daughter who just graduated high school. I'll call her A for convenience. Family has always been the most important thing to me. Over the years, I've been proud to have a gentle wife, a well-behaved daughter, and a happy marriage. Although there were occasional conflicts and work pressures, I never doubted my wife's fidelity. I always believed we loved and trusted each other completely. Our daughter, A, is the pride of our family. She is kind, intelligent, and affectionate. Since childhood, A has been closer to her mother than to me. They often confided in each other about everything. I was happy to see my wife and daughter bond like two friends. About a year ago, A started dating a boy from her high school. I'll call him B. The day A brought B home to meet us, I remember how nervous she was. Her face flushed, her eyes sparkling. B was polite and shy, greeting my wife and me, even giving my wife a small bouquet of flowers as a gesture of introduction. My initial impression of B was very good. He was polite, spoke respectfully, and seemed genuinely interested in A. After that, B frequently visited our home. He was considered a member of our family. Many weekends, B stayed for dinner with us. My wife was very fond of B. She often cooked his favorite dishes and always told him to make himself at home. I was happy that my daughter had a decent boyfriend, and even happier that my wife and B liked each other. This made me even more confident that B truly loved A and would treat her well. At first, everything was normal. We often watched movies and played games at home together. Sometimes B would help drive A to school or help my wife carry groceries when they went shopping. At those times, my wife would often praise B for being so gallant, or joke that he was even more gallant than me. I just laughed, thinking she was fond of my daughter's friend in a purely innocent way. Perhaps I was too naive. A few months ago, I started to notice some small changes in my wife. She suddenly started paying more attention to her appearance, buying new clothes, occasionally wearing light makeup even when just at home. I thought she wanted to refresh herself for confidence, so I was happy to see her enjoying life. Sometimes, I saw her texting and smiling to herself. When I asked, she said she was chatting with a friend. I didn't suspect anything. Looking back, those signs were small, and I overlooked them all. Until one Friday afternoon a few weeks ago, the day that changed everything. That day, I finished work early unexpectedly and decided to surprise my wife and daughter. Instead of letting them know, I stopped by the supermarket to buy groceries for a hearty dinner. It had been quite a while since our family had a meal together because everyone was busy. I eagerly imagined the surprised and joyful look on my wife and daughter's faces when they saw me home early with bags of groceries and their favorite dessert. Around 4 p.m., I drove home. The house was unusually quiet. My wife's car was still in the garage, but the front door was only slightly closed, unlocked. I carried the bags of food and the cake box, about to call out, "I'm home." But suddenly a feeling that something was wrong made me stop. I stepped inside quietly and put the groceries down in the kitchen. The living room was empty. Then I faintly heard giggling coming from our bedroom at the end of the hallway. My heart started pounding. I recognized my wife's voice and the faint voice of someone else. A bad feeling welled up. I tiptoed closer to the bedroom door. The door was slightly ajar. I held my breath and gently pushed it open. Before my eyes was the most haunting sight of my life. My wife and B, the 20-year-old boy, my daughter's boyfriend, were entangled, both naked. Time seemed to freeze. I stood there stunned for a few seconds, then roared in agony. "What is this?" Both of them on the up, startled, and let go of each other. My wife hurriedly grabbed the blanket to cover herself, her face drained of blood. I felt my heart sink. Rage surged through me. I rushed into the room, grabbing B by the collar as he was still fumbling. Then I swung my fist, hitting him squarely in the face. B fell against the wall, his face covered in blood. My wife screamed, "Don't! Don't!" She rushed to pull me back. I pushed her away, accidentally shoving her hard, causing her to fall to the floor. At that moment, I cared about nothing but my utter resentment. I pinned B against the wall. He was terrified, raising his hands in supplication. "I'm sorry. I was wrong." Seeing him like that infuriated me even more. I hissed, "Why? I treated you like a son, and you dare?" My voice choked, a mixture of pain and anger. I was about to throw another punch, but my wife clung to my arm from behind, sobbing, "Please, stop. I beg you. I was panting, and a sliver of reason returned. If I hit him again, I might kill him. I growled at B. Get out. Get out of my house. B didn't hesitate, staggering out of the room, his hands still clutching the shirt he hadn't managed to put on. A few seconds later, the front door opened and slammed shut. Now only my wife and I remained in the room. She knelt on the floor, the blanket wrapped around her, tears streaming down her face. I stood there, gasping for breath, my head spinning. Everything that had just happened was so horrifying, it felt like a nightmare. The wife I had loved for the past 20 years had just stabbed me in the back, with our daughter's teenage boyfriend. My throat was bitter. I wanted to scream, to curse, but all I felt was numbness. My wife sobbed, I'm sorry, over and over again. Hearing those words, my heart ached even more. Finally, I managed to utter a few words. Why? How could you do this? With him, our daughter's boyfriend. My God. My voice trembled, as if someone else was speaking, not me. My wife crawled closer, reaching out to touch my leg, but I recoiled as if burned. She whimpered, I have nothing to say. I know I was wrong. I gritted my teeth, bitterly asking, How long? How long has this been going on? She sobbed. Just today was the first time. Before that, just texting, hugging, kissing. I was foolish. I scoffed in disbelief. First time or umpteenth time, what difference did it make? My trust had been completely shattered. I closed my eyes, trying to control my anger. Then the image of my daughter flashed in my mind. Oh God, what if my daughter found out about this? I felt dizzy, even more so than when I witnessed the scene. I whispered, Get up, get dressed. Come to the living room. My wife wiped her tears and shakily obeyed. When she was gone, I allowed myself to collapse onto the bed. My whole body felt drained. I buried my face in my hands, and tears flowed. Everything had gone up in smoke in an instant. I didn't allow myself to break down for long. I had to face this horrific reality. I forced myself to stand up and walk to the living room. My wife was already dressed, sitting huddled on the sofa, her eyes vacant. Seeing me, she flinched, her tear-stained face filled with fear. I stood some distance away, looking at the woman I had once loved and trusted the most, now so strange. I asked, my voice hoarse, Why did you do this? Do you know you just destroyed our family? She burst into tears. I know my mistake is unforgivable. I don't dare to ask for your forgiveness now. Just please don't leave me. Don't kick me out. I felt both angry and pity. I almost snapped. Don't leave? When you were messing around with our daughter's boyfriend, did you think about your husband, about your daughter? My wife covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably, unable to say anything, but, I'm sorry. I didn't want to hear it anymore. I raised my hand to stop her. Enough. Then I sighed, trying to suppress all my emotions to think about something more important, my daughter. I gritted my teeth and said, I have to pick up us soon. This horrible thing, we can't hide it from her. She has the right to know the truth. Hearing that, my wife panicked and shook her head. Please, don't tell her. She won't be able to handle it. I beg you, if you have to tell her, let me tell her, or... I interrupted her, coldly. Do you think there's a way to tell her without her being shocked? Don't argue anymore. You should prepare yourself. My wife collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. I beg you, don't let her hate me. I'm a terrible mother, but please don't let her abandon me. Seeing her like that, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. But I couldn't waver. I needed to think about my daughter first. I declared, I have to go pick her up. You stay home and think about what you're going to say later. Or if you can't say anything, I will. Then, despite her cries behind me, I walked out the door. As I closed the door, I heard her sobbing call out, Please. I closed my eyes for a second, then gritted my teeth and kept walking. Now, I had to do the most heartbreaking thing in my life. Tell my daughter that the mother she loved and trusted had betrayed both of us. Throughout the drive to pick up my daughter, my head buzzed. I wondered how to tell her so that the shock wouldn't be too great, but I couldn't think of a way. How could I tell her this horrible truth gently? When I arrived, my daughter was already waiting. Seeing me, she was surprised because it was usually my wife or B who picked her up. She cheerfully walked towards the car. Dad, are you off work early? Are you picking me up today? Looking at her innocent smile, my heart tightened. I forced a weak smile. Yeah, I'm free today, so I came to pick you up. I got in the car, chattering about her school day. I tried to respond with uh-huh and oh, but my mind was in turmoil. As we neared home, she suddenly asked, "Where's B, Dad?" He said he'd pick me up after school to get something to eat. I clenched the steering wheel. That B. By now, he was probably hiding somewhere. I swallowed hard and answered curtly, He's probably busy." My daughter also noticed the change in my voice, and she looked at me worriedly. "Dad, what's wrong? Is something wrong?" I took a deep breath and decided to pull the car over to the side of the road, not wanting to go home yet. I turned to my daughter, trying to be gentle. "Hey, I have something very important to tell you. You have to be very calm, okay?" A's face immediately changed. "What is it, Dad? Is Mom okay? Or is something wrong with B?" She started to get anxious. I felt my throat tighten. There was no other way, so I had to tell her directly. "This afternoon, I discovered something. Mom, your mom and B did something terribly wrong." A's eyes widened, not understanding. "Wrong? What do you mean, Dad? Mom and B, what do they have to do with each other?" I tried to keep my voice from breaking. "I caught your mom and B in bed together." In an instant, A seemed to turn to stone. She stared at me, her mouth open, but no sound came out. Then she shook her head frantically. "No, impossible. You're lying. It can't be." Her voice cracked, and tears welled up in her eyes. I choked back tears. "I wish I was lying. But it's true, honey. I'm so sorry." I covered her face, tears streaming down. "Oh my God, no, no. Mom and B, how could they?" She started sobbing, her whole body trembling. I pulled her into my arms and held her tight. I struggled free, crying out through her tears. "How could they do this to me? Mom, how could you do this to me?" Then she buried her head in my chest, sobbing uncontrollably. I couldn't hold back my tears either. I just hugged her and soothed her. I know you're hurting so much. I am too. I'm sorry you have to go through this," I said as I cried. We hugged each other and cried for a long time. Finally, A looked up, her eyes red and swollen with tears. "Where's Mom, Dad? Where is she now?" Her voice was filled with hurt and anger. I answered softly, "Mom's at home, waiting for you. She's very remorseful, she." A wiped her tears, gritting her teeth. "I don't want to hear it. Let's go home, Dad. I need to talk to Mom." I looked at her worriedly. "Are you sure? If you're not ready," I said firmly, "I have to face it. I want to ask Mom why." Then she wiped her tears and took a deep breath as if gathering courage. I nodded and started the car, my heart heavy. I didn't know what the upcoming scene would be like, only hoping that my daughter would be strong enough. When we got home, I opened the door. I almost rushed in, and I quickly followed behind her just in case. My wife was sitting in the living room and stood up abruptly when she heard the door. Seeing A, she burst into tears. She stepped forward, trying to hug her daughter, but A raised her hands to block her. She yelled, "Don't touch me." The sharp sound startled even me. My wife froze, her hands suspended in midair. I stared at her mother, tears streaming down her face again. "Why, Mom? Why? You know how much I love him. How could you take him away from me? How could you betray Dad and me?" My wife collapsed, her hands clasped together, pleading, I'm sorry. I have nothing to say. I just hope you don't hate me. I love you." A almost screamed, "Love me? You love me? If you loved me, why did you do this? I'm disgusted by you." Then she burst into tears again. My wife, hearing her daughter say that, collapsed onto the floor, covering her face and sobbing. The air in the room was suffocating. I felt my heart shatter as I watched them like this. I stepped forward and put my hand on A's shoulder, trying to speak calmly to her. "A, Dad understands you're extremely angry with Mom. You have the right to feel that way. But no matter what, she's still your mother. She was wrong, very wrong, but she still truly loves you. You don't need to forgive her right away or talk to her now if you're not ready. Dad just hopes you don't do anything rash or blame yourself. This isn't your fault. It's the fault of us adults." I sobbed. I don't know what to do. I don't want to see Mom anymore, at least not now." Then she turned and ran upstairs to her room, slamming the door shut. My wife called after her, "Honey, I'm sorry." But A had disappeared behind the closed door. I looked at my wife. She was kneeling on the floor, her face stained with tears, looking desperately towards the stairs. The sight was heartbreaking, but I was still filled with anger and disappointment. I spoke softly but coldly. I think it's best you leave her alone for now. Let her calm down. My wife nodded through her tears. She asked shakily, Are, are you going to kick me out? I was silent for a moment. Honestly, just seeing her made me angry and hurt. But it was late, and my daughter had just experienced a shock. I didn't want to make things more chaotic right now. I sighed. I don't want to see your face, but it's late now. You can sleep on the sofa. We'll talk tomorrow. My wife lowered her head. Yes, thank you. She curled up on the sofa, still sobbing. I went upstairs and knocked softly on my daughter's door. Hey, honey. It's Dad. Are you okay? Silence from inside. I was worried, but I knew she needed time, so I just said, I'm in the next room. If you need anything, just call me. I love you. I returned to my bedroom, the place where the sin had occurred that afternoon, my heart filled with pain. I hastily tidied up the messy sheets, blankets, and pillows, then lay down. But how could I sleep? The sound of my wife's soft sobs downstairs, the occasional sob from my daughter's room, all felt like knives twisting in my heart. That night, none of us slept. We had fallen from heaven to hell in just a few hours. The next morning, I got up early and made some porridge, then went upstairs to Kale. She wearily opened the door, her eyes puffy and red. She didn't say a word and barely ate anything. My wife only dared to watch from afar, not daring to approach her daughter. A heavy atmosphere hung over the house. I decided to ask my wife to go stay at her parents' house for a few days so A could have some peace. She was initially scared and didn't want to go, begging to stay to take care of our daughter, but I was firm. Finally, my wife quietly packed her things, tears streaming down her face. Before leaving, she knelt at A's feet and pleaded again. A stood with her arms crossed, her face cold as ice, though tears were also flowing. Go away, Mom. I don't want to see you. Her words cut like a knife, but my wife could only nod and accept it. I saw my wife to the door. She looked at me with desperate eyes. I know I have no right to ask you, but please don't leave me, for our daughter's sake. I pursed my lips and didn't answer. She shakily walked out, the door closing between us. Now, only my daughter and I remained in the house. Everything had changed completely in just one night. The following days passed in sadness and silence. My daughter practically locked herself in her room, barely eating or drinking. I had to gently persuade her, bringing food up to her room and coaxing her to eat a few bites. I didn't want to see anyone and didn't contact her friends, partly out of shame, partly because she was emotionally devastated. Seeing her wither away, I felt both heartbroken and furious at my wife and B for causing this tragedy. My wife was staying at her parents' house. Every day, she texted to ask about our daughter. I only replied briefly that she was okay, but needed time. In fact, I hadn't once replied to her mother's texts or answered her calls. She told me, I don't want to hear her voice. I'm not ready. I respected her decision. As for B, he also texted once after that day to apologize. I showed me the message and immediately blocked his number. In the message, B said he had made the biggest mistake of his life, that he didn't expect forgiveness. He just wanted A to know that he was very sorry. But to A, it was all meaningless. She said she never wanted to see B's face again. I agreed. If he dared to show up at our door again, I don't think I could control my anger. But B was probably too ashamed and stayed away. Several weeks passed, and my daughter gradually recovered from her devastation. She still hadn't forgiven her mother, but at least she was no longer as weak as she had been in the first few days. I tried to be there for her all the time, talking to her, comforting her, and even suggesting that she see a therapist. At first, A refused, but finally, I persuaded her to try a few counseling sessions. I also joined her for one session. The therapist advised us on how to manage our emotions and gradually heal from the psychological trauma. As for my wife, she repeatedly expressed her desire to see our daughter to apologize in person. I also understood that maternal love made her feel tormented. After more than a month, I arranged for them to meet at home one afternoon when I was present. The meeting was filled with tears. O was initially cold, but when she saw her mother kneel down and cry, she also burst into tears. They hugged each other and cried. Even so, I knew my daughter's heart couldn't heal immediately. At least, it was a first step for her to release her emotions. My wife took the opportunity to apologize profusely to our daughter, promising to make amends at all costs. I listened but didn't respond, only saying at the end, I need more time. Their mother-daughter relationship was still very distant. but I hoped time would heal it somewhat. And what about the relationship between my wife and me? To be honest, I couldn't look her in the face without feeling pain and anger. She constantly begged me for a chance to save our marriage. She said she would go to marriage counseling, that she would accept any conditions I set, as long as I didn't rush into a divorce. She was afraid of losing her family, especially afraid of losing the love and respect of our daughter. I myself was incredibly torn. My reason told me that this betrayal was unbearable, that I could never trust her again. Every time I remembered that scene, I still felt a pang in my heart and a surge of resentment. I thought about signing the divorce papers to end it all. We were both over 40. This was supposed to be the most peaceful and happy phase of our lives, yet she ruined it. But more than 20 years of feelings and the image of our happy family also held me back. I had loved and been attached to this woman for half my life. She had been a wonderful wife and mother, until this terrible mistake. If we divorced, what would happen to my daughter? Even though she was angry with her mother, I knew deep down she still loved her. I was afraid that our divorce would be another blow to her psyche. On the other hand, if I chose to forgive and try to reconcile, could I really overcome this trauma? Could I ever forget and continue living with her as if nothing had happened? And my daughter, would she accept our reunion, or would she lose respect for me too? Every night I tossed and turned with these questions. Some nights, I held the prepared divorce papers, ready to sign, but my hand hesitated, unable to put pen to paper. Today, I decided to write this story here to unburden my heart, partly because I need to vent to feel relieved, partly because I'm really unsure what to do next. I know many outsiders would advise me to divorce immediately, and I myself am leaning in that direction. This betrayal is too great, not only to me, but also to my daughter. It's hard to imagine regaining trust after all this. But then I think about what we once had, 20 years of happiness, a seemingly peaceful family. Is it all going to end here? If I divorce, this family will be completely broken. My daughter will eventually accept it, but she will definitely carry a scar in her heart. Now, my family has changed forever after that incident. Trust has been shattered. The remaining question is, can the pieces be put back together, or is it better to go our separate ways? I'm about to make a decision about my marriage. To be honest, I still love my wife, or at least the person she was before, and a part of me wishes for some miracle to bring us back to the way we were. But I'm also afraid that if we continue, I will always live in suspicion and bitterness, and my daughter will never be able to forget this. In the end, my priority is still my daughter. I want her to be happy and grow up strong, regardless of what happens between her mother and me. So what should I do? Should I forgive my wife to keep the family together for our daughter's sake? Or should I set both of us free and accept that our family is no longer whole? Will time and effort be enough to heal the lost trust? Or are there limits that can never be crossed? I'm truly lost. What do you think I should do next? Is there any hope left for my family? Or has this betrayal ended it all?